Yeah, well, today's result was very significant. We've seen this morning that Andrew Pender received a 15-year sentence in the Circuit Criminal Court for possession of almost 9 million worth of controlled drugs and over 1.1 million in cash. This was a very significant result, and as the evidence was given in court, that Andrew Pender was managing and controlling a sophisticated drug cell, and he was responsible for it. He had a sophisticated setup insofar as he had set up shell companies in 2021 with live rig vehicles to ferry around drugs and cash around the city and beyond. These vehicles also had sophisticated hydraulic hides to conceal drugs and money, and he was also observed personally delivering large quantities of drugs into communities around their cities. So it was a very significant result here today, and very much targeted at the mid-tier, mid-level drug dealing gangs.
How was he caught? Because he seemed to work under the radar for some time.
Yeah, so Andrew Pender was not on our radar before this investigation and this operation. In fact, I think he had 3 previous road traffic convictions. But our Dublin crime response team, our DCRT, were involved in a very comprehensive and complex investigation in which it became very obvious very quickly that Andrew Pender was responsible for this drug trafficking cell. So his arrest and his sentencing here today is very significant for the communities of Dublin North and Dublin West.
He seems to have operated between the higher levels and the lower levels, so he wasn't targeted by the local Garda or by the national units dealing with transnational criminals. Just explain that to us.
This is a very good example of how an Garda Síochána targets drug trafficking at all levels. You'll all be very much aware of the successes that our colleagues in the National Drugs and Organised Crime Bureau have had against the national and international serious and organised crime groups, and you will also be aware of our local drugs units arresting street dealers and liaising with communities in relation to drugs. But there's that very important middle tier, tier 2 we call them, and that's where the drugs and organised crime team, the DCRT in Dublin, has that capacity and capability to target these gangs. And today was very effective and a very, I suppose, good example of how that's working very well.
Can I ask
Deborah? And
I see the judges referred very chillingly that Andrew Pender had a Garda uniform that was found in that container. Do you know if he used that uniform, or did you find out what the purpose of that was?
We don't know if he used the uniform, but it was a very sinister development when we did find a full Garda uniform with protective equipment in the container with 9 million worth of drugs and over 1.1 million in cash. So it was a sinister element, and I suppose it gives you an indication of the level of sophistication that this particular mid-tier crime gang.
Do you know where he got that from?
We do. It was stolen from a car.
I ask you just one quick question. This man is a mid-tier. He runs a mid-tier gang, but he had drugs and cash worth more than 10 million euro. Is that not frightening, the amount of money to be made from drugs?
It is scary, and I know from my own personal experience that every year we're seeing larger and larger quantities of drugs and sometimes cash with them. For example, the Dublin crime response team, since being set up 2 years ago, have seized over 48 million worth of drugs and over 14 million in cash and gold bullion. So that gives an indication on those targeted mid-level groups what they're capable of. But they do have affiliation with other larger groups, and we do believe that Andrew Pender was affiliated with a group based in northwest Dublin. But those investigations are very much live and ongoing.